There is nothing like a good spooky urban legend to keep you awake at night. But the creepiest thing is that many urban legends contain at least a little bit of truth that has been widely exaggerated. Big Sky Country is no exception, with stories from haunted bars and prisons to massive battlefields. Today's urban legends offers a window into the past with haunts that have an eerie, out-of-time feel. One of the most well-known ghost towns in Montana, Virginia City, by definition is a ghost town, but is still very much alive, frozen in time. Virginia City got its start in 1863 with the discovery of gold in Alder Gulch. Trying to keep their find a secret, the miners would travel over 60 miles south for supplies. But they were quickly found out, and when the men returned, there were over 200 miners following them. While the nation was in the middle of the Civil War, word began to spread quickly, and soon miners from all over began to converge on the mines, with a majority of miners coming from the South. With the amount of gold coming from the mines to possibly win the Civil War for whoever could capture it, President Lincoln soon sent northern immigrants into mining camps to hold the gold for the North. Of course, this caused all kinds of tension in the city, and it quickly became known as the most lawless place in the American West. By 1865, after gaining so much influence, Virginia City became the state capital, even though it was still a lawless town. Many miners, freight haulers, and stagecoaches lost anything of value to the bandits and thieves lurking on the trails to and from Virginia City. As a result, a secret society of vigilantes was formed to stop the outlaws, and lynchings became a common event of the day. By the early 1870s, population had declined to a few hundred, with the discovery of gold at Last Chance Glitch in Helena, and by 1875 the capital was moved to Helena, and Virginia City was well on its way to becoming a ghost town. Sometime in the 1940s, Charles Bovey and his wife Sue bought the town and started renovating it. Today, it has become the tourist destination and is mostly owned by the state government and is a historic landmark. But is it haunted, you may ask? Many Montanians say yes. With its colorful and tragic history, it's no wonder there are many reports of ghostly specters in the remaining buildings and in the streets themselves. One of the more widely reported encounters is on the streets of the ghost town. Reports claim that an apparition of a tall man in a blue Civil War soldier's coat is seen smoking and walking along the boardwalk at night. Other reports from the streets include a ghostly woman and a young girl. These ghostly figures have been reported so much through the years that a ghost walk tour is held nightly. Although there have been reports from most of the buildings being haunted, the most haunted is said to be the Fairweather Inn and the Bonanza Hotel. Fairweather Inn has been many things through the years, including a butcher's shop and a bowling alley, before finally becoming the Fairweather Inn during the spring of 1863. Formerly the 1800s Anaconda Hotel and Saloon, Fairweather Inn is said to be haunted by ghostly children who visit guests staying on the first floor. There have also been reports of phantom footsteps, disembodied voices, and the sound of rustling old-fashioned dresses and doors that open and close on their own. The Bonanza Inn is said to be one of the most haunted buildings in Virginia City. Originally built as the Madison County Courthouse in the mid-1860s, the building soon became the St. Mary's Hospital for Miners in 1876. By 1879, it was abandoned and mining slowed down. There have been many reports of guests being pinched and poked during their visits. Some people have reported seeing the apparitions of nuns roaming the building and hearing the voices of children in the middle of the night. One of the most active rooms is said to be Room 1, where many guests said to have been awakened in the middle of the night and seen a ghostly specter in their room. With Virginia City once being the most lawless city, with its murders, hangings, and other debauchery, it's no wonder the town is full of paranormal activity. Just as interesting as other well-known ghost towns in Montana, Garnet just may be more so because it is not heavily touristed or commercialized. Dating back to the turn of the century, Garnet is named for the precious stone that was mined there before gold was found. In its prime, population soared to around 1,200 people, had 4 hotels, 4 stores, 2 barber shops, a butcher shop, a doctor's office, laundry facilities, 13 saloons, and even a school, despite its remote location. After about 20 years of operation in 1905, the gold ran out. Mines were abandoned and only about 150 people remained. Then, in 1912, a fire raged through the town, destroying most of the commercial buildings, and with World War I, the remaining residents left to explore better employment opportunities elsewhere. In 1934, Garnet was revived some with the rise of gold prices, but just like during World War I, World War II stripped Garnet of his population. While some people remained, mining had become more challenging because of the dynamite was restricted. By the 1940s, Garnet was abandoned once and for all. Preservation began in the 1970s, and today there are about 30 buildings remaining, including a log and frame cabin, a store, and the remains of the J.K. Wells Hotel and Kelly's Saloon. Even though spirits can be felt all over town, 2 of the more haunted locations are said to be the J.K. Wells Hotel and Kelly's Saloon. Reports from the Wells Hotel include unexplainable footsteps heard with no one else in the building, and the sound of doors closing, even in places where there are no doors remaining. If you go upstairs to the 2nd floor, walk straight towards the wall without turning, look over your left shoulder, and in an open doorway you may see the not-so-nice spirit that resides there. Now heading over towards Kelly's Saloon. You may hear the sound of music and laughter coming from the building, but if you approach, everything falls silent. This phenomenon has been reported even in the dead of winter when there's only one person overseeing the town. Montana has many haunted locations, including mansions, hotels, bars, and even haunted battlefields. There are many reasons to visit this famous battlefield in Montana, especially if you want to find a ghost. It was here in June of 1876 that Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer led the U.S. 7th Cavalry into battle against the Lakota and Cheyenne warriors. All of Custer's 263 men and over 100 Native American warriors died in what is referred today as Custer's Last Stand. With all the bloodshed, scalpings, and mutilations that took place here, no wonder the spirits are restless, with the most activity being reported from the battlefield itself, as well as Stone House and the National Cemetery. Many people have reported hearing the sounds of warriors charging through the cemetery on horseback, and in 1979, there was a report from a park ranger who was alone on Last Stand Hill. He stated that suddenly there was an unexplainable drop in temperature. Then he felt a strong force walk through his body and heard the murmur of voices. Another report comes from 2 visitors at separate times, but exactly the same. One was from a man from New Orleans, another from a man in Minneapolis. Both claimed to have been transported back in time and witnessed the soldiers and warriors fighting. Another report in the 1980s comes from another park ranger. She claimed that while driving home, she saw the apparition of 2 warriors sitting on their horses dressed for war, both holding shields and bows. Some of the more unsettling stories come from Stone House, which was built in 1894 as the cemetery caretaker's home. Later, the house was used as apartments in the summer months for park staff. During the winter months, the house is closed and locked, which makes the following stories even more strange. A man named Neil Magnum would often walk through the cemetery at night on his way home in the winter and reported seeing lights on the second floor of Stonehouse. Even though he could not explain how the lights were turned on, he would go and turn them off again, only for them to come back on the next night. A park ranger also reported seeing lights on during the winter, but she refused to enter Stonehouse alone and called a fellow ranger to accompany her. At the same time the rangers entered the house, the wife of the other ranger was at home watching TV. Suddenly, the screen went blank, and she heard a voice say, "Second floor," 3 times. She freaked out until her husband returned home unharmed. Many staff that have stayed at Stonehouse in the summer have reported hearing unexplainable knocks, loud bangs, phantom footsteps in empty rooms, and their personal items being moved by unseen hands. When it comes to prisons, everyone knows there's a lot of desperation, fear, hatred, and sadness in them, so it's no surprise that many prisons are haunted. The old Montana State Prison was built in 1871 as a territorial prison until statehood was achieved in 1889. Within a month of opening, the prison had reached its capacity and became a violent place where many prisoners starved, killed themselves and each other on a regular basis. This continued for several years, eventually forcing many prisoners to live in camps on the grounds because of the overcrowding in cells. In 1886, another housing building was completed, which helped the overcrowding some, but the prison continued to suffer from underfunding and dirty, cramped conditions, leading to a massive riot in 1950. The riot lasted over 36 hours until the National Guard restored order. In 1976, the building was added to the list of National Historic Places and finally closed its doors in 1979. If anywhere is going to be haunted, a place with high death tolls is definitely a good contender. To this day, voices, footsteps, and a variety of eerie sounds have been heard in the prison. People have also claimed to be overcome with an unnerving presence, as if someone were about to attack them. People have also reported that they have been touched by something unseen, with many claiming to have been pushed. Some of the most haunted areas in the prison include Death Tower, the Administration House, the Clark Theater, Maximum Security, the Hole, and the Chapel. Old Montana State Prison was featured in an episode of Ghost Adventures and offers paranormal investigations throughout the year. Before being discovered by settlers, Chico Hot Springs was used by the Native Americans for bathing and laundry. The first written record of the springs came in a diary of a miner in 1865 and has since been used for many different purposes. In 1900, Bill and Percy Knowles built the Chico Warm Springs Hotel, which consisted of full-service dining and a plunge pool. When Mr. Knowles died in 1910, he left his widow in charge of operations, which flourished under her care. In 1912, Mrs. Knowles hired a doctor by the name of George A. Towson, whose fame rapidly spread, causing the hotel to need additional boarding, and in 1916, a hospital wing was added. After Dr. Towson left in 1925, the hotel's business started to diminish, and in the 1930s, the hospital wing was torn down. That's when things really started to deteriorate. In 1973, with most of the buildings either completely deteriorated or torn down, the new owners rebuilt it to what it is today. The only remaining original building is the historic inn. The most famous ghost of Chico Hot Springs is the Lady in White, which many people believe to be the spirit of Percy Knowles. She has been making appearances and scaring guests for many years now. 2 hotel security guards reported seeing the lady in white near a piano on the 3rd floor. They took a picture of the apparition, but the only thing the picture revealed was a tiny white orb where the ghost was. In 1990, 2 employees reported following the lady in white to room 349. While following the apparition, they smelt the sweet fragrance of lilac and jasmine. When they opened the door at the room where she disappeared, it was completely empty, but the rocking chair was gently rocking. Reports say that particular chair would always end up facing the window, gently rocking no matter what room it was placed in. Other claims from guests and employees include the crashing sound of pots and pans in the middle of the night, like someone was in the kitchen cooking or cleaning. When they would check out the kitchen, there would be nothing. In any state as large and rich in history like Montana, there are bound to be some unexplainable mysteries. One crazy urban legend takes place in Cascade County near the city of Great Falls. Although there have been many stories of phantom hitchhikers, this is not your average one. Just off Highway 87 in Cascade County, you might just come into contact with what many call the most aggressive phantom hitchhiker in the United States. Many people have claimed to see a Native American dressed in blue jeans and jacket hitchhiking the flat highway towards Fort Benton at night. Suddenly, without warning, the hitchhiker appears on their windshield. When the driver gets out to check, the hitchhiker disappears and there is not one scratch on the vehicle. There have been many reports of this phantom hitchhiker on the windshield, and every report is the same. Flathead Lake is the largest freshwater lake west of the Mississippi. Every year, the people of Montana enjoy the many activities on this beloved body of water, but Flathead Lake holds a secret. According to the Kootenai traditional legends, the first Native American tribe to live in the area lived on an island in the middle of the lake. One winter, while crossing the frozen lake with the tribe, 2 girls saw what they thought were antlers sticking out of the frozen waters. The girls decided to chop off the antlers using a sharp-edged rock to cut through the ice. Suddenly, the antlers started to shake and the ice around them split open, and the head of a monster appeared. The girls turned themselves into a ball and buckskin target to escape, but half of the tribe drowned, which is said to be the reason why there are so few Kootenai people today. Since then, people have reported seeing a creature in the water that is eel-shaped, with a long wavy body about 20 to 40 feet long, with brownish to blue-black skin and grayish-black eyes. The creature is often described as a whale or a giant sturgeon. Since 1889, there have been over 109 reports with what the locals have named Flessy. But there is no need to worry about this lake monster. Apparently, it means no harm to people. One report involves a 3-year-old boy falling into the lake and then suddenly reappearing on the shoreline. When asked how he had gotten out, the boy said the monster lifted him up. Historic brothels, like theaters, always seem to have a resident ghost or two. It's not surprising that America's longest-running brothel is haunted by many ghosts. While some of the spirits have been identified, there are still many unknown and are believed to be the prostitutes who died at the Dumas. The Dumas brothel is located on a hill in Butte, Montana, and operated illegally for 92 years, from 1890 to 1982. With its 43 rooms, the brothel was a very busy place in its heyday, as silver miners working up to 3 shifts per day made frequent visits to the Dumas. Today, paranormal activity reported at the Dumas ranges from unexplainable cold spots, being touched when no one else is around, disembodied voices, unexplainable moaning and groaning, and many photos that show various manifestations, including mysterious floating orbs throughout the building. The most well-known spirit is said to be of a former Madam Eleanor Knott in the 1950s. After becoming very wealthy in her profession, she thought it was time for a fresh start and arranged to run away with her lover, a successful businessman who happened to already be married. Eleanor waited for her lover with her suitcase on the night they planned to leave, but he never showed up. The next day, her body was found in her room, room 20. She had overdosed on sleeping pills and whiskey. Many people believe that because she was so wealthy, the next madam in line, Bonita, murdered Eleanor to take possession of her riches. After her death, many of the working girls reported seeing Eleanor walking the halls with her suitcase. Eleanor's ghost has also been reported to manifest in photos taken in the building. These photos reflect the image of a woman that wasn't there when the photos were taken. Other eerie events include falling mirrors, people being touched by unseen hands, and shaking beds. Moss Mansion, the historic house museum in Billings, Montana, has a very eerie, if not home-like feel to it. It was built in 1903 by Preston Boyd Moss for his family, his wife Mattie, her parents George and Iantha Woodston, and 6 children: Woodston Jackson, Kula, Melville Hollingsworth, Preston Boyd Moss Jr., David Hickman Moss III, and the youngest Virginia. Although a happy family, the Mosses suffered a devastating loss in 1908. Virginia, the youngest child, died suddenly at the age of 5 in her room on the 2nd floor of diphtheria. Other deaths in the mansion include P.B. and Mattie, George and Iantha, the grandparents, and the middle child, Melville. Virginia is believed by many to be the most common spirit seen and heard throughout the house. She has been reported to have been seen peeking around the staircase into the Great Hall. Other reports of Virginia include hearing a little girl giggling. One report from the groundskeeper claims that when he would go into the master suite, everything is neat and tidy as it should be, but when he returns later to check on things, the bed looks like a small child had been jumping on it. Other claims say that ghostly conversations can be heard when no one else is in the building, doors open and close by themselves at night, and orbs are seen with the naked eye. Bear Canyon is a popular recreation spot in the Bozeman area, with skiing in the winter and hiking and camping popular during the summer months. With all this lively activity, it's hard to imagine an eerie side to the area. The canyon's recorded history dates back to the late 1800s thanks to the Cooper sawmill. The area became more popular when the ski area was developed in 1941. Although in the recorded history there seems to be nothing to warrant paranormal activity, there still seems to be reports. The most popular story from Bear Canyon is said to be that of a little ghost girl who attempts to lead people off the trail. The little ghost girl is said to be especially drawn to women. There have been reports of a few women daring to follow the little girl, only to be led to the middle of nowhere and the girl disappearing. Other people have claimed to have seen a strange mist on Bear Canyon Road.